Imagine being so inept at your job that you spend 10 years toiling away in the back room somewhere without any projects ever getting picked up. Then, when you finally do get your big break and you get to do a project that's out there and it's a front facing capacity, it does so poorly that the fans, the ones you're supposed to please first and foremost, react in such a negative way that your only recourse is to claim that those fans are patently evil. Blows my mind. Now, I have a few theories as to why this is happening. We're going to be diving into that today. I'm Tim Anderson, aka Renfell, the bearded dwarven princess, and y'all knew that Rings of Power wasn't over. Y'all knew that the rant videos were going to keep coming because we got season 2 to look forward to now, and articles like the one that just came out at Hollywood Reporter today, which Bounding Into Comics covered in their sort of parodied version. It lacks a lot of the context of the full interview, so we're going to be diving into both today. If you like what you see here today, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. Don't forget to support the channel down below with a super thanks like all of these amazing people, or join as a member of the Adventurers Guild to get private videos that I do for all my YouTube fans. And don't forget, I also do the Mondays in Middle Earth show every Monday morning at 11 a.m. Central as we read through The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings, and The Silmarillion to further critique the Rings of Power. And of course, my House of the Dragon reviews, my Wheel of Time reviews, so on and so forth, and everything else I do here on the channel. Let's dive in. So, the Bounding Into Comics article that we've got linked down here below talks about how the showrunners have just participated in one of the most obvious damage control pieces in the history of media by doubling down on the offensive and their vile rhetoric by calling critics of the show patently evil. This time around, instead of working with Vanity Fair as they did in February when they initially attacked Tolkien fans, this one is with the Hollywood Reporter. And I've got a link to this. This is a huge, huge piece. Um, this took me a good 15 minutes to read through. It is a big, big chunk. So we're not going to be able to dissect all of it in this video. Instead, I'm going to link it down below and I want you to go read through it at your leisure because everybody reads at different speeds and some people might spend an hour on it. Some people might speed read it in 5 minutes. But it is a very interesting piece and provides more context to what the Bounding Into Comics article is talking about. But the core essence of this is that the Hollywood Reporter piece is absolutely nothing more than a damage control piece trying to claim that their show is actually successful. Even though, and I'm going to go over here to The Guardian real quick. The Guardian has an article. And by the way, this is the next Rings of Power video is going to be about this article right here. So make sure to tune in for the next one. These go live every morning at 6 a.m. Central Time. So we're going to check this one out next. This one over here. Yeah, that one. The Guardian literally has an article that says the world's most expensive show, which looked like an episode of Hollyoaks, only with woeful acting, was so inept that every episode left you sniggering. So, on the one hand, you've got the Hollywood Reporter sitting down with showrunners to give this meeting. And what they did, and this is very interesting, if you read through this piece, they talk about how the showrunners are masters of the pitch. And when they're pitching, you can't help but nod your head to what they're doing. And we have previously heard from the people who were invited to London ahead of the premiere, all of the influence and everything else who were met there and met with the showrunners and were wined and dined before they were given tidbits. And they said the one thing all of those influencers came away with was we don't have a sense of whether or not the show is going to be true to Tolkien's lore, but we do get the sense that it's in good hands because these men are very, very passionate about what they do. Just because they're passionate about what they do doesn't mean they're good at what they do, nor does it mean they are the right people for the job. I've got another video coming out on Thursday morning questioning whether or not these guys and Raph Judkins over at Wheel of Time can actually how did they get the jobs as showrunners? Because they are not actual fans of the franchises that they're working on. Because if they were, they would be staying true to the book material and the source material. But they've made it blatantly clear that they're not going to do that. They're going to go do their own thing. So clearly, it has nothing to do with being fans of the source material. It has to do with getting credits under their belt and furthering their careers. So what's interesting to note, if you read through here, They worked for 10 years as basically script doctors for J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot Studios. And it talks about how after 10 years, they decided that that was enough and they wanted to go work on um, let's see here. So we'd reached a point. We've been writing movies for 10 years that should have gotten made. Movies where the director was right, the cast was right, the script was right, the title was right, and it was a big IP, and it still wasn't happening. So we thought maybe we should try this TV thing. And so that's when they decided that they were going to move into pitching. And what's worth noting is it says here in this interview that they went through 7 different pitch sessions before they eventually were selected as the showrunners. And a lot of people had said that it was J.J. Abrams who got them the job. That's not necessarily the case, although they do mention here that J.J. Abrams did put in a good word for them. But what's worth noting is that it doesn't matter who you are. If you're talking about a show that's going to have $1 billion behind it, you've got to have a good pitch. And if you, as unnamed showrunners who have never done anything, you don't actually have any actual credits to your name, even though you've been behind the scenes as a ghostwriter. Nothing wrong with that, by the way. I have done a ton of ghostwriting in my career and a ton of doctoring on other people's stuff and gotten well paid for it. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you don't have anything front facing, public facing, and yet you somehow managed to win the job after 7 different pitch meetings, the reason is because you're very good at selling people on your vision. That is why these 2 guys are the showrunners on Rings of Power. They have shown after season 1 that, at least from a fan perspective, they don't know what they're doing. But again, if you watch my reviews, the review videos that I've done for The Rings of Power, I have 2 different reviews that I give. One is the Tolkien fan review, where we went from like a 5 out of 10 in the early episodes to a 0 out of 10 for episode 8. And then I had um, the the generic fantasy fan review, which is like from the perspective of my wife who has never read the books, and those have it's a decent show. And if you go read the critiques and the Rotten Tomatoes and critic reviews, everything else that they talk about in here, the show does have a good score with critics, but it has a very bad score with audiences, and that's because it's a spectacle, and that's what a lot of the critics like is they want the spectacle, and the critics are all in the pockets of the studios in the first place, so they like the spectacle because they're being paid to like the spectacle. And then on the other hand, we have the actual fans of Lord of the Rings who are saying, we don't like this, it's not good, we're giving you a bad rating. And people are saying, oh, the bad review bots and all that's driving the reviews down. No, it's not. Go look at places like The Guardian, who are writing these articles about how it's, one of the most inept shows of all time. This is not. That's a major publication making that claim, not just some random schmuck on the internet. So the idea that the fans are the ones to blame because the fans just can't understand what we're trying to do here, and they just don't get the vision, they just don't understand what we're trying to do. What the literally, if you read through this Hollywood Reporter piece, it literally is the 2 showrunners saying over and over and over how they just don't understand why people are upset. They just don't get it either. They just don't get it. So it's just really amusing to me how people who claim that they're going to write the novel that Tolkien never wrote don't actually understand things. Um, it's really interesting. So I highly recommend that you go read this interview over at. Obviously, I'll have the Bounding into Comics one below, but this one lacks some of the context because it is obviously sort of skewed towards having a rant perspective to it. Um, there's also some really good points in here about how the if you read through this here, it says Amazon claims there's been a coordinated effort to attack the show for daring to diversify Tolkien with strong female leads and people of color. It says the hardest part, Sanders says, was for people on the cast who've had things related to them privately that are just harmful. And the thing is, if they would have stayed true to the source material, you wouldn't have this problem in the first place. The issue is that you're trying to diversify it for the sake of what? And here's the thing, if you would have just done it and not said anything about it, fans, myself included, would have never even, more than likely, we would have never said anything about it. But because it became the focal point of your press tour, where you had your actors and actresses out there talking about the importance of diversity and we're making women strong and powerful again, and we're making a political statement, only to have the showrunners do a backtrack and say, actually, our show isn't making a political statement. I don't know why anybody would think that. It's like, it's the same type of writing we see on the show. You say one thing, and then immediately an episode or two later, you're backtracking and trying to take that back, and that's not how things work. So it has nothing to do with the fans being against you. It has everything to do with the fact that you're just not doing a good job at adapting the original source material. Because if you had done so, if you had actually adapted Tolkien's world and lore and the characters we know and love, you wouldn't be getting the reaction that you have gotten. Anyway, links are down below to read all this stuff. Don't forget, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, follow along for more. Support the channel like all these amazing people with a super chat down below or a sticker on these premieres. You can also do a super thanks after the fact when it's been an uploaded video. And of course, all of the membership options down there. We do lots of cool stuff for our members. There's also a Patreon page. Dive into what I'm building with my wife and my brother. They have that fantastical world behind me. Everybody say goodbye to Lucas, who's back there sleeping peacefully. We will see you in the next rant video, everybody. Till next time, peace. Happy reading. Happy viewing.